Nostalgia is palpable, it's in the air, I can grab it, I can fucking chew on it. December 10th, or the week thereof, Khans of Tarkir comes to Magic the Gathering Arena. Fetch lands and delve spells are coming, baby, and this is not a remaster. I thought we were getting it remastered, I thought we were getting it like slight changes to make the limited environment better and some cards removed and some cards added like we've seen in the past. Turns out it's a one-for-one straight hard Khans of Tarkir on Arena, and I'm actually genuinely excited for it. I have a lot of nostalgia for Khans of Tarkir for the way it affected eternal formats like Modern and Legacy, as well as what it did for Standard and as a limited environment. The exact date of its release is a bit unclear to me. There's an article that says the 10th, but on Weekly MTG this week, Blake said 11th or 12th. So basically in that Monday to Wednesday window, we should have an update where Khans of Tarkir lands on the client. The other thing is, at the present time of recording, we can find out next week, we don't know exactly where the fetch lands will be legal. Wait, it's me, Future Vince. You're watching this video that I recorded, recorded and got edited before the announcement for Timeless. Timeless is the new format coming to MTG Arena this year, coming in about a week from me putting this video up on the channel. I'll be doing a full video talking about Timeless and how expensive it probably will be on the platform, but regardless of that, how excited I am to actually play a vintage-like format on the Arena client. The reason I bring this up now, going to the rest of this video, is that I'm going to talk about will they, won't they make the fetch lands legal in Historic and how they'll make Deathrite Shaman better, for example. All of that, when you hear me asking those questions, just see those questions theorizing about Timeless and the format of Timeless. Sorry, I didn't want to re-record the entire video after I got it edited by my editor. It seemed like lost work in a way, and I'm a busy man. And time is money, bitch! That's why you should sub to my Patreon. Anyway, on with the video. In this video, I'm going to talk about all the best cards from Khans of Tarkir that I'm excited to play with in multiple formats on Arena, from Historic to a lesser extent, Explorer. I don't really care about Explorer, but Historic, Explorer, Historic Brawl, Limited, Timeless. All these things that are coming, Gladiator, if ever they fix the 1v1 challenge mode. Talk about all the most exciting cards from Khans of Tarkir. And don't forget, this video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com. Hit the link in the description below or the code KENOBI at checkout to get 5% off your order and to help support the show. And I'm about to start running an Historic Brawl League on my Discord with $100 for first place with Cool Stuff Inc. credit. Historic Brawl competitively. I know it's not the most competitive format, but I like to vary the formats up. So we ran via Arena, via my Discord. If you want to get involved, you have to be on my Patreon. For $2 a month, you get access to my Discord server and the leagues we run on there. It's better than a coffee, and it costs you half as much. So give me your fucking money. Let's start with some of the big hitters in Khans of Tarkir. Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise are two incredibly powerful card draw spells. In the case of Dig Through Time, it's more card selection. Both of them are very cheap to cast because Delve allows you to exile cards from your graveyard to pay for the colorless part of their mana cost. Treasure Cruise will often be 1 mana, while Dig Through Time will be only 2 mana in formats where you have access to fetch lands. Every time you crack a fetch to go get a dual land, you're going to reduce the cost of this card by 1 in essence, and cards like Thought Scour and similar are going to act like dark rituals in terms of reducing the cost of these cards. Treasure Cruise is going to be stronger in your tempo decks like Wizards, for example, a deck in Historic that doesn't need any more love, but this will definitely be played in it, whilst the double blue pips of Dig Through Time is better in Control, mid-rangey shells, and some combo decks that are looking for specific cards instead of a critical mass of spells. These cards are currently legal in Pioneer because fetch lands aren't legal with them. Meanwhile, they're currently banned in Modern and Legacy as a testament to how powerful they are, alongside things like fetch lands and cantrips that put things in the bin and self-mill and such. Will they go into Historic? We don't know yet. I'd love to see them enter initially. I really would, so we can play this weird, hybrid-y, Legacy-esque format on Arena, and they can ban them later. And of course, no ban list or minimal ban list Historic could become a thing too, as they've discussed, a format where we get to play with all the dumbest shit on Arena. I just like playing with all the old dumb shit. Give me somewhere to play with the old dumb shit. Rakshasa Death Dealer is not a particularly powerful card that sees play anywhere outside of, well, the standard environment in which it was in. I'm bringing it up because all Rakshasas are having their art redone for this, not quite remastered, but re-release of Khans of Tarkir. The reason for this is that the original depiction of the Rakshasa demons is considered culturally insensitive. It is basically almost exclusively based upon the Gygax rendition of what Rakshasa should be from D&D. Rakshasa are meant to be shape-changing creatures that can take on the form of like cat-like demons. However, in D&D they are cat-looking demons, a change to an original cultural artifact that Gygax lent upon or took and reappropriated essentially. I don't know the ins and outs of the original cultural origins of the Rakshasa, but I do think it's good for Magic and modern games to pay a bit more lip service at a minimum, or just generally respect to the things they lean upon and borrow from. I think it's good, actually. There are people that are going to comment comment in the comment section saying I'm a cuck, or the people doing this within Magic are cucks or whatever, because you're just a bunch of cunts. That's right, I said it. If you're upset by the Rakshasa change, which is such a minimal fucking thing, you're a fucking cunt. I was recently told I was too negative in my videos because that's not going to help me grow to be the biggest possible YouTuber I could be. But if I'm honest, if this is negative in like telling you you're a fucking finicky asshole for giving a shit about people having a little bit of sensitivity to the cultures they borrow from, then I will be happy at the stage I'm at. Fuck you if you're bothered by this. And if you are, like me, a fan of cat people, hashtag not a furry, don't worry, Leonin are right there. Leonin Arbiter and friends all still exist. The cat people are still in the game. They're just changing the look of demons stolen from another culture's fucking religious traditions. Jeskai Ascendancy is coming to Arena. Ascendancy is one hell of a Magic card. One of the boogeymen of the format as Treasure Cruise entered Modern, because this card is very good as you cast spells with Mana Dorks out. The idea is that you cantrip, casting a spell that draws you another card, and you untap your Mana Dorks. You then float the mana off of your Mana Dorks, cast another spell, untap your Mana Dorks, and if each spell is cantripping, or in the case of Treasure Cruise, drawing you 3 cards, you can combo through your deck. I think some Mana Dorks, some cantrips, and some card draw at Treasure Cruise, and Ascendancy is likely to be a very, very good deck in Historic, with something like Grape Shot as the finale. If anything gets the Fetchers, or Jeskai Ascendancy, or Treasure Cruise banned in Historic, it's probably this deck. The great thing about Jeskai Ascendancy is that you don't even need to Grape Shot people. If your dork is not summoning sick and doesn't have Defender, say I don't know, a Paradise Druid, it will grow huge as you loop through your deck, and thus you can just punch your opponent in the face if they don't have creatures to get in the way. A very fun deterministic combo deck that I think will probably not survive on the client for too long. Deflecting Palm, a card that I love that it exists. This is such a fun Magic card. For the low cost of 2 mana, the next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. If damage would prevent this way, Deflecting Palm does that much damage to that source's controller. I have seen people deflect all sorts of stuff in my time, with the most ludicrous ones probably being Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, where you sack all your lands and you're basically dead on board, but Deflecting Palm turns it around and you bounce the damage back at your opponent. The art is gnarly as well. I think it depicts Narset snapping the bones in the hand of Zergo, or maybe just some random orc. I don't give a shit. It's fucking awesome. This card has never really been like a mainstay of a deck in Eternal formats, but it's often been a sideboard card for burn decks when they want to blank a shot from a huge creature or a hugely pumped creature like Boggles, for example. Bearing in mind is a source of your choice, so it can even target hexproof and protection creatures. There's going to be one person who's written in the comments that it doesn't work on Emrakul, but it does. Emrakul has protection from colored spells. This does not target and thus does not care about protection. Hardened Scales, the name of an entire archetype in Modern, originally came to us in Khans of Tarkir as a 1 mana rare enabler for the Abzan token strategies in that limited environment. If one or more +1/+1 counters we put on a creature you control, put +1/+1/+1 counter on that creature instead. Put that many +1/+1/+1. I always love reading Hardened Scales out loud because it makes me sound like I'm sort of some tricksy pixie from the future. Mainly with Ozoliths and like Arcbound Ravagers and shit, you can move counters around and double them up and normally win off the back of a Walking Ballista, a card that I have talked about at length before for being a homogenizing combo end piece that does not exist on the Arena client current, and I'm kind of glad for that. So the end goal of Walking Ballistering someone to death is not there, but you can still do some tricksy shit of growing your whole board way bigger. The Hardened Scales deck in Historic may be less artifact enabled because of the lack of Arcbound Ravager and Walking Ballista, and might be the old Winding Constrictor standard deck instead. Altar of the Brood is a real meme. A 1 mana artifact that says whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. It is a win condition that is a payoff for putting lots of shit into play. Looping lands with like excavators, or just making lots of tokens will do this. This is not a competitive staple as such, but it's a card that I see as a very fun commander card that I've played a load of in commander decks in the past, and will probably try and win off of in Historic Brawl by milling my opponent out. Mantis Rider at several times over the years has been a key part of Humans decks in Eternal formats. Currently it sees next to no play, but then Humans isn't really a big deck in Modern anymore. With Cavern of Souls recently coming to Arena and now Mantis Rider appearing on the horizon, maybe a multicolored Humans deck might just become more viable in the Historic as a format. That said, I think you want to be base green and be able to cast Company in a Humans deck, so maybe Mantis Rider is just not good enough anymore, but a 3/3 flying, vigilant and hasting human monk is still pretty good. It's also flying on the back back of a mantis, so it's pretty sick. On the flip side of that, each of the shards had their own 3-color, like, titular creature, with Jeskai getting mantis. Savage Knuckleblade was the Temur version of this, an ogre warrior with like 3 pretty decent abilities, a 4/4 for 3 as well, so overstated. This was famously a card that a lot of people hyped up in preview season, and it saw no play in standard, and nowhere else either. This card was a lot worse than it first looks. Honestly, I think newer players might read this and think this card is actually really good. It is not. I bring it up here because it's going to be funny to see it on Arena. It's going to be funny to collect 4 copies of it as I draft, thinking, Savage Knucks, I wish you weren't shit. An annoying commander enters Historic Brawl with Narset, Enlightened Master. A 5 mana, so 3 Jeskai and a 3 colorless, a 3/2, a first striking hexproofing human monk that whenever it attacks, exile top 4 cards of your library. To end of turn, you can cast non-creature cards exiled with Narset this turn without paying their mana costs. You fill your deck with expensive and powerful spells and then things to enable her to have haste and protection. You don't play any creatures, you play extra turn spells like Time Warp, and you look to just like basically play at the top of your deck with Narset. It's been a deck in Commander for years, and I assume some people will be slamming it in Brawl. I probably will try it a little bit because I'm that kind of person. Gurmag, Angler, and Tasigur. Oh baby, these are names that I have not seen in a while. Tasigur the Golden Fang is a much more likely to see play in Historic. Both of them are basically 1 mana 5/5s or 4/5s because you delve all the stuff away. Tasigur is slightly better in the sense of having this ability to self-mill and then get a card back from the graveyard, essentially draw you a card every time you activate him, where Gurmag has 1 more point of power. Gurmag has been stronger in Legacy historically as a threat played by Delver decks, kind of fallen completely out of vogue thanks to Murktide Regent power creeping it out. Gurmag was more playable in Legacy than Tasigur as well because Karakas was a thing. Karakas made Tasigur unplayable in Legacy. If you set up your graveyard for a turn, then play a Tasigur and they bounce it back to your hand, you've just tempoed yourself an entire turn. It is not good. Meanwhile, Tasigur saw quite a bit of modern play for at least a 6-month to 12-month period until things began to get power crept. Tasigur was a strong mid-range threat that gave you some card draw in the mid-range mirrors. Are they good enough to see play in Historic? I think so. I'm going to play 1 singular Tasigur in my Jund mid-range deck, although delving all your shit away will make your Jar Seals worse. Although he does play well with Crucius, who discards things into your bin to fuel him. So if you play well with Crucius or Jar Seal, you've probably got a chance. In this case, it plays well with Crucius. So I definitely think Tasigur's got a spot, at least as a one-off, in some sort of mid-range Jundy pile. Become Immense is another member of the Delve family. A 6-mana target creature is +6/+6 into end of turn, that if you were playing a deck with fetch lands and self-mill like Thoughtscour, it can just be a 1-mana +6/+6. I don't know if modern players who still play Infect play this, but for the longest time this was the best spell in Infect, for just ending the turn out of nowhere by giving your Infect creature +6/+6 and just closing out the Infect race. Of course, there's no Infect creatures on Arena, we only have Toxic, which doesn't scale with spells like this, a conscious design decision, so it's not going to make an Infect deck good, but there are some places where a random Delves Become Immense will just get you. People will die to this somewhere. I just don't know what deck it will be. And speaking of cards that I just don't know where the home will be but can absolutely kill you, this is the standard boogeyman of old, Siege motherfucking Rhino, a 4-mana 4/5 trampling creature that when it enters the battlefield, it domes your opponent for 3 life and you gain 3 life. It's a lightning helix attached to a fucking Rhino that when revealed, Louis Scott Vargas, one of the greatest players of all time, said, guess this is magic now. Siege Rhino was power crept as fuck. It was crazy how good this thing was. 4 mana for a 4/5, it doesn't die to any of the removal spells in the format that it was printed in, like Stoke the Flames, and it went on to see some modern play as well because it's just a really good mid-range threat. You play it on turn 3 off for Dork, you attack with a 4/5 with evasion with trample attached to it, and it's doming them. If you can flick it with Restoration Angels and similar, you start to really get some value out of that ETB as well. Nothing quite says fuck you to an aggro deck as playing a turn 4, 5 toughness wall that also shoots your opponent for 3 and gains you 3. Get fucked, Mono Red. The problem is Siege Rhino doesn't really have a home in conventional or current Historic on the platform. There is no Abzan mid-range deck. Like I said earlier, if you play well with Jarsil or Crucius, you probably can see some play in some sort of mid-range shell, but this is not going to see play with either of those as the wrong colours. Weirdly, perhaps there's a mid-range Pioneer pile you can play where this is playable with it, because Pioneer on the platform Explorer is missing some of the key shit. So maybe there's a space for Rhino to ride once more. Or maybe the most power crept card from 8 years ago is now completely dog shit. Polluted Delta, Bloodstained Mire, Flooded Strand, Wooded Foothills, and Windswept Heath are the 5 fetch lands originally from Onslaught block that were reprinted into Khans of Tarkir, giving an entire generation of players access to those juicy fetch lands that allow them to go and fetch land-type lands, like the shock lands. If you have a land like Blood Crypt that is both a swamp and a mountain, you can fetch off any of the lands that say mountain, even the red-green one, for instance. This makes your mana really good and allows you to play untapped, basically any colour off of a fetch land. And add to that Triomes, Chetmir's Garden gives you 3 colours off of any one of these fetch lands that can fetch up any of its 3 types. Just bearing in mind this land comes into play tapped, so really you're cracking your fetch on the opponent's end steps to fetch up one of these and untap with it. The problem that comes with fetch lands coming onto the format and why they may never actually get to see play in Historic and might be pre-banned, which I hope they're not, but they might be, is that they make mana very good. My argument is it's normally the lands that you can fetch that are the problem, and fetch lands themselves bring all this other stuff. They trigger Revolt, they trigger Descend or whatever it is in the latest set, they fuel Delve, they allow you to manipulate the top of your library with bonuses, Citadel, they allow you to play Brainstorm alongside them. Is Brainstorm legal in Historic right now? We'd love to get our own Brainstorm fetch land format on the client.
A few moments later.
No, I just looked it up, it's banned. Why is it banned? I don't know banning it when the fetches are coming, but the fact it's banned right now is so strange to me. In Legacy, brainstorming 2 cards you don't want to the top of your deck after you've drawn 3 new ones, so you've reset your hand, and then cracking a fetch to shuffle them away, so you are basically reforging and resculpting your hand. It's basically illegal cheating. It's so unbelievably good. Brainstorm is kind of a shit card without shuffle effects. Getting free shuffles out of your lands is incredible. I am personally a big fan of all this stuff that it gives you. All this resetting the top of your library, playing with it, landfall triggers, revolt, delving, descending, all this crazy stuff that fetch lands enable makes the game a hell of a lot more fun in my opinion, at least in some of the older formats. I do think that the mana base in Historic are about to get too fucking good if they come in. I would kind of prefer them to get rid of the Triomes and force people to play with the shocks than ban the fetches, if I'm honest. At some point we've got to be able to play with the dumb broken old shit. Why not in Historic? And lastly, Deathrite Shaman. Yes, Deathrite Shaman was printed in Return to Ravnica, you are correct. And yes, I sound like I've gone mad. But Deathrite Shaman is good when it's a mana dog all the time. And if you're cracking fetches and your opponent's cracking fetches, it's now a mana dog for all colours. It's a black or a green mana dog. A mono black deck can play Deathrite Shaman and eat fetches to give you green or blue mana. It's fucking insane. On top of that, it gains you life against aggro decks, kills creatures in the Reanimator decks out of the graveyard. It burns spells in the combo decks, and then just like clocks your opponent for 2 life while doing it. It does absolutely everything, and that's why it's banned in Modern and Legacy. I'll be honest, Deathrite Shaman used to piss me off a little bit in Legacy when it was legal, and I was glad to see it go. I played it a little bit in Maverick, but it was too good in the format, making 4 color decks really common. Fetches plus this will probably do that to Historic, and there'll be a point in like a few months' time where I'm like, it's time for Deathrite Shaman to go. But why not have a window for a while? Why not give us 6 months of Deathrite Shaman and fetch lands? Actually, fuck it. Give us 3 months of Deathrite Shaman and fetch lands, and then ban it down the line and give us 3 wild cards back. That's much more fun than preemptively never letting us experience this interesting, different way to play Magic. So those are the cards from Khans of Tarkir that I'm excited to play with on the Arena client. Are any of them tickling your fancy? Are any of them nostalgic bait for a time gone by? Or any of them things that you've heard nothing but good things about and can't wait to play with? I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about Khans of Tarkir coming to Arena. And I'll see you in the next one, you bunch of slags. Ta-ta for now.